Good evening, everybody. My name is Malin Johnson. I wanted to talk to you guys today about the grip of diabetes on America. The purpose of this is to inform you on the growing diagnosis of diabetes across the United States. Over the last few decades, diabetes has burdened the lives of so many. And I think it's important that not only we recognize diabetes as a legitimate threat to the public, but I think it's also preventable. And by that I mean there's also an opportunity for us to teach the youth good, healthy choices, starting from their food and physical activity. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So diabetes and its grip on America, again, our purpose is to educate you more specifically on Western cultures and the United States specifically. So what can we do about it is what we're going to answer that question. Over the last few decades, diabetes has burdened the lives of millions of people in the U.S., and it's up to us to really make that change. So what are we doing wrong? The first thing we're doing is the lack of exercise. If we look at our careers are a lot more stagnant and less physically demanding. If we look at careers and work 40, 50, even longer years ago, we can see that those types of jobs were more physically demanding, and the choices of the food that they ate were not like what we have today. So if we look at where the stagnant portion of people's jobs, they are less physically demanding, thus they're not exercising as much. Busy home lives, it allows for really no time for exercise. So let's be real, once we get off of work, the last thing that we want to do is go home and exercise to any capacity. So the home life, definitely, there's a lot more things at home. There's no farm activities that we need to do and things of that nature. It's easier to not be active due to modern day conveniences. Well, if we look at shopping, now shopping's a lot more easier. We're able to go out. We can order anything we want online to get shipped to our house. Grocery shopping is made easier now, so we're spending less time moving around. We can actually just go by in a vehicle, pick up our groceries, have them loaded for us. And really the only physical activity we're doing is taking it from our car upstairs if you look at the end of your work day. So continued here, what are we doing wrong? Our choices, our food options is definitely the next portion of this. Unhealthy foods are options. Unhealthy food options are cheaper. I can feed my family for $5 to $10 when $5 to $10 in a grocery store won't get me very far. Larger portions. For that $5 to $10, I'm going to get an abundance of food. It's all about how much can we give our consumers because we want our consumers to shop with us. And of course, we have hundreds of options that are available. Everybody's trying to get a piece of that food dollar. So there's all kinds of different options, how many pizza options we have in burger joints. There's not just one restaurant that the family now goes to. It's a plethora of different options. So healthy eating is also perceived as expensive. In some cases, if you shop with fruits and vegetables in more the produce section, your money could go a lot further. Organic items are perceived as being a little bit more expensive. In some cases, they are. So it's harder for families to spend that money that they would normally spend $10 to feed the family, or spend $10 and only feed half the family. So that's kind of what they're up against. So all of these contributing factors of diabetes. Diabetes is the actual disease in a whole, but these can contribute towards that as you get older. Listen, I love to eat cake. I love anything sweet. It doesn't matter who made it, where it comes from, I'm going to eat it. But the big question is, are those choices going to eventually catch up with me? And that's really what we want to try to look at. So we're going to look at the long-term health effects of diabetes. Once you've been diagnosed with diabetes, they are more susceptible to other debilitating diseases. Some of these diseases include heart disease, blindness, and even cancer. And then as a whole, because of all of this, you eventually end up with a shorter lifespan. So if we look at diabetes as the start, over time, you'll start to see some of these more likely in some of those patients. So who's affected? The CDC reports that in 2015, 30.5 million Americans suffered from diabetes or pre-diabetes, meaning that they're just haven't been diagnosed or they're right on that cusp of getting that diagnosis. And that's about almost 10% of the U.S. population. If we look at other world cultures in other countries, that number is a lot lower. So one has to beg the question, what are they doing different? And a lot of times it's pointed at diet. 132 children are living with the disease. If you look at a lot of the Native American cultures out west, you'll find that some of the parents are diagnosed with diabetes or actually giving birth to children with diabetes. So now it's becoming more of a hereditary thing and they're passing it on. The cost of this disease, diabetes in America can cost us or Americans in general $245 billion in indirect or direct costs. Average annual medical cost for someone diagnosed with diabetes is about $13,000 or almost $14,000. So if you take that just in the medical costs alone and you were to convert that into the amount of healthy food options that could have been purchased, you can see that if we hit it early, we'll be able to save in the long run. So what can we do? As an adult, we can educate ourselves and establish healthier habits, but the key is what are we going to do about our youth? That's really the tale of all of this. It may be too late for some of us, but if we start teaching the youth now, it might help out. We can start by educating the children on healthier food options, getting kids active in the classrooms and outside. The classrooms and outside, I think, is very key. Inside the classroom, we all know that we all sat at a desk and we listened to the teacher lecture. But I think that education can actually be put in a different direction for kids to stay more active. More activities inside and games and learning activities to keep the kids moving. Because that's what they want to do. Otherwise, they just harbor it all and you end up dealing with it when you get home. Dietitians in our schools to apply their knowledge to the menus. If we look at the school menus, they're not the greatest in comparison to other places. A lot of schools are doing a lot better, but I also think that by having a dietitian or someone educated in that specific area, they can implement things early on. And of course, I know a lot of kids don't like to eat some of the stuff, but if it's implemented early, they don't know the difference between, let's say, broccoli and beans and corn, because they've been eating it since they were very young. So continued here, getting the family involved. I think it's important that us as a family continue to work with the kids. If they see mom and dad doing it or grandma and grandpa doing it, it's very important to them. They're going to push through and do it with you as well. It's important for the family to work together. Fun runs, I think, is a great option. A lot of communities are coming together and doing 5Ks and 10Ks, and it's family-oriented. I think it's also important to turn off the TV and get outside. There's a lot of activities that can be done outside for a lot of the families, even if it's just going for a walk. I think the days are gone, and it's less kids playing outside that I've noticed. I don't know about you. So in conclusion, I think it's okay to eat the foods that you enjoy as long as it's on that rare occasion. Exercise as a family will instill the habits into our youth. Encourage your loved ones along the way. Make the best out of the only life that you have, because you've only been given one. So make the best of it. And it's not too late to change. So thank you guys for your time and attention. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I sure help with this.